All right, YouTube world, YouTube land. Uh, this evening, I'm going to start my, I don't know, I guess it's going to be kind of a series. I'm going to be talking about my Chinese knife collection, and how it's going to help me ultimately determine what I'm looking for in the perfect pocket knife, the Excalibur pocket knife. So what I did was I went out and I bought two knives from various different manufacturers in China. And all of these knives are similar in some ways and they differ in some other ways. So there's 6 different companies represented here, and I'm really gonna utilize that to determine, if this Chinese manufacturer is of good quality, or if this Chinese manufacturer is somebody you just need to stay away from. If how premium Chinese manufactured products compared to American manufactured products, and down the line maybe even to Italian, because there's a few MKM knives that I'm really interested in looking at, and I can also use it because of their differences, I can use that to pick and choose the features that I really like, or I'm really looking for in a pocket knife, in a folding knife. So I'll go through and I'll show all the different knives. As we can see, the Kizer Pinkerton Fire Ant. This is one that I actually carried today, Mother's Day, so I wore something kind of nice. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, by the way. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to show all these knives and a quick rundown of them, and then I will pick one just to talk about it, kind of pick them apart, and then at the end of this, I guess it'll be a 6 or 7 part video process. I will determine what I think of these, and what is the best knife, or what are the characteristics that I'm looking for in a knife. And now that I'm looking at it, I realize I left one of my Civivis inside my house. There it is. So I'm gonna get these all set up so that they're all kind of showed equally. Please forgive, I have another Civivi, the Hooligan, that's still in my house. When I talk about the Civivis, I'll have the Hooligan. So, just real quick rundown here. I have, with wood scales, thumb stud, liner lock, inland. And like I said, I'm not really going to go into much detail with them right now, unless those are the ones I choose to talk about. Inland, Kizer, Civivi, CJRB, Bird, Rough Rider, and Best Tech. A lot of these brands have a really good name within the community right now. Best Tech, CJRB, Civivi, Kizer, and even Bird. all have a really good reputation within the industry right now. I guess that my stinking light doesn't want to stay on. Okay, we're just going to turn it off and not deal with that anymore. Rough Rider, you know, if you're into the traditional market, if that's, oh, we can't even see the birds now that not the birds, the Bestecs. Scoot these over so we can see the Bestecs. So yeah, the Rough Riders, if you're into the traditional market, you probably know about Rough Riders already. I'm not really that into them. I'm getting into them. I'm developing an interest in them as we go along. So I just wanted to get some and check it out. So my Rough Riders, as you can see, they're traditional style knives with bone scales. The birds lockbacks with FRN scales. The CJRBs are flipper liner locks with carbon fiber. The Bestecs are G10 liner locks. The Inlands are both, yeah, they're both liner locks with wood scales. The Kizers are both frame locks with titanium scales or just generally metal. And then the Civivis are both liner locks with liner lock flippers. Well, this one's a flipper, the other one's not. It's a thumb stud with micarta. So, I'm gonna pack some of these up, and I'm gonna start with the Kizers. So, as I put some of these things away, just get them out of the way. Which one was the other one? Wasn't that? Let's just pick one. Okay. Just to make room. So we're going to put these back in the box that they came from, just to clear out some space so I can talk about the old Kizers. It said I'm going to talk about the Kizers as I put them both away. All right. Brain fart averted after it's too late. So both of the Kizers, frame locks, titanium scales. I believe they are both S35 VN. Hang on. Let me get my eyes on it. Yeah. They're both S35 VN. So Kizer Pinkerton Fire Ant, Wharncliffe blade, and the Kizer Splinter Tomcat. I guess that you could also call that a Wharncliffe blade. This is kind of a weird modified Wharncliffe, that it's got a bit of just a torpedo kind of hump to the spine of it. So both of these knives, I don't know why I got that. Both of these knives, they're fine knives. This one ended up costing, I already made a video on this one, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this one. I got this one for an anniversary gift fairly recently and I want to say it was $109. And then I got this one shortly after because I'm working on this little project. I couldn't contain myself. I want to say it was in the $115 range. These are both, while they have a lot of similarities, being titanium frame locks, both from Kizer, they do have the similarity. They both are fantastic gentleman's carry type knives, a very narrow profile, very slim carry, and relatively short, both of them. Premium materials in S35 blades, titanium scales. They are both premium knives. Now these two are going to differ from the rest of these knives in this little series because these are premium knives. These are Kizer's premium line. And in that they're going to get judged as such. The rest of them are budget knives. These are not. I have taken both of these apart and cleaned them both. This is the splinter Tomcat is on bearings, and the fire ant is weird. It's on phosphor bronze, but it also has Teflon or plastic. So it's got on each side of the blade, it's got two very thin phosphor bronze washers sandwiched around a Teflon washer. So there's three washers on each side. Excuse me. Phosphor bronze, Teflon, phosphor bronze, and then on the other side it's the same. It's weird. I've never, again, I'm not the most experienced knife guy, but I haven't seen that before, so it kind of threw me off a bit. That said, the action on this knife is very phosphor bronze, right? It's got some I don't want to say grittiness because that would imply that it feels like there's sand in there to me. It's not that, but there is a friction to it. There is a metal on metal feel to this. I didn't really want to loosen the pivots anymore because I managed to get the blade perfectly centered, and it flips out nicely. This is one, on the other hand, is not going to be drop shut because it is such a small blade. Yeah, I mean, the action is fine. It's a completely usable, workable knife, especially as a gentleman's carry. Like I said, I carried this today, and I really, really appreciated it. I think it would look so much better if this was bronze anodized, like the sides of the scales are. That might be a project in the future that I want to try and work on myself, but I'm not there yet. So this one, it's got a nice action. It's not the cleanest action, it's not the smoothest action, but it's okay. Like I said, I cleaned it up and it didn't really make a whole lot of difference to it just because of the design of it. This one, on the other hand, the Tomcat, has an outstanding action. It has a bearing action. It is fully just clean and smooth for as light and skinny as this blade is. It just flies out there. This knife is really nice. This knife doesn't have the ergos. The Fire Ant doesn't really have the ergos to make it a, you know, if you work in a warehouse where you're breaking down boxes all day every day, this one could wear thin on you. Like, I mean, I can see, like, it's not hard to hold on to, but I could see this becoming tiresome. This one feels better in the hand. but there are some, and again, you're getting premium quality materials on both of these knives at a good price. I mean, S35VN titanium frame lock from an American manufacturer is going to cost you a lot more than $105 or $115, you know. So you get a lot for the money, and you get a reasonable action, reasonable working knife. You will not be disappointed. You could be disappointed. At the end of the day, you've got a good tool. And that there's something to that. That said, both of these knives have flaws. To start, everything about this knife is good except for, well, a couple of things. One, the amount of Loctite that they used on these pivots was, particularly this one, was a bit obscene. Like, I nearly stripped out. I can feel the difference. Like, I can feel it now. I nearly stripped out this screw trying to get this pivot out. And I did manage to ruin my T8 bit head in the process. The biggest problem for me with this particular knife is, there's two of them, but the biggest one's a design problem, one's a fit and finish problem. The biggest fit and finish problem for me with this particular knife is it's great. Like, it's great everywhere. All the action is clean and smooth. You know, outside of a Loctite issue right here, everything's good, and I was very excited about it until I watched the Nick Shabazz video where he pointed it out. Everywhere it's great except for right in this area, and I'll use the other knife to point to it. Right in this area where your thumb, well, I guess not your thumb, but like where your finger's gonna land, or your finger may be when you're shifting to close, or if you're left-handed. This little area is sharp. Now, I took some 1200 or 2000 grit sandpaper and I tried to knock it down a bit, and I did a bit, but it's still got some corners and edges to it. I mean, the rest of it, it's great. Right here, along here, it's fine. In here, inside the frame, perfect. It's fantastic. Right here, sharp as razor. I mean, it is something. The only other thing I'd really like to have seen on this knife would be a forward choil, so I could really get up on it and do some work with the blade here. The blade length with a blade this long, for what this blade would be designed for as a gentleman's carry, in my opinion, I think a forward choil would have gone a long way to making this a really good knife. That and knocking down this edging right here. The problem I have with this knife, I have two similar, well, I also have two problems with this knife. One of them, I guess they're both design problems. This knife has, and I may have mentioned it in the first video, I don't recall, has a pretty substantial double clutch. Meaning, as you're, God, how long have I been off camera? Meaning, I'm still new to this, guys. Meaning, once you unlock the knife and you start to shut it, with most knives, specifically liner locks and, well, any of the more modern lockup systems, once you unlock it and you break it off of that fully open detent or lock bar, whatever you want to call it, you can just go the rest of the way. This one's got this double clutch where you have to get it beyond the next point. This is hard to get it past this point because with more modern knives, people want to do this one-handed. So right here, I've taken my finger off the lock and I'm still trying to push with this. Well, this is going to put me right in the danger zone of this edge coming down on my finger because there's not a lot down here to catch the blade from hitting me. So I've learned through carrying this a few times, you've got to really be cognizant. You hit that first stop, push it out again and keep going with your thumb up into the as close to the pivot as it can be so that it catches your nail before you hit that blade. Then move out of the way and shut it. The other problem with these knives, and one of the things that is going to factor into my decision of an Excalibur, is right here. Frame locks. I am not a fan of frame locks. I have a couple of knives. This one's not so bad. This one was particularly bad. I have a couple of frame locks that both do this. This one was bad though. Was an illustrator, a perfect illustrator of why I don't like the frame lock. If I'm going to open this, oh, I can't really show it like this. So if I'm going the way I would normally open any knife, let me just get one out. Okay, Best Tech line. It's a liner lock. The way I'm going to open any knife, I just grab it and I open it. Grab it, open it, right? There is something to, you have to learn how to use a frame lock. And I don't want to do it. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. When I just grab this knife and go to open it, I cannot for the life of me open this knife because I have my finger on the lock bar. I am holding the blade shut. I have to make a conscious thought to put my fingers on the pocket clip and get this finger back out of the way. And now I'm worried about, where's the meat of my hand when this blade's coming open? Like there's so much that I have to think about just to deploy this blade to open a letter, right? And it's not really what I'm in it for. It's not really what I'm after here. I like the idea of a frame lock. They are supremely easy to do work on generally. Excuse me. You just pop the screws out, lift this side up. I don't have to worry about what's going on with the other side. With the axis lock, you have to worry about where the pivot is relative to the spring, and where it can be a hassle. It's not that it's not doable, but it can definitely be a hassle. So, frame locks with respect to doing knife maintenance are supremely easy. But you have to learn how to hold them and operate them a certain way every time whether you're opening or closing. And this knife actually got better after I did the maintenance on it, after I cleaned it up. Took it apart, cleaned it up, oiled the bearings, oiled everything else. This one's not so bad because it's such a small knife. Like, it's just natural for me to hold it like this, just anchored on the pocket clip. But what I'll say with respect, the judgment that from my opinion of these two knives, my opinion, let's clarify that, my opinion based on the two knives that I own, that I have operated, Kizer is a fine knife manufacturer, and you know, if you're going with that G10 bag lighter, you're probably going to be happy with it. Or that, you know, that G10 sheepdog, you're probably going to be happy with it. But with respect to these knives, I would not buy another Kizer. I don't think, I mean, I think of the 6 brands that I'm going to compare, Kizer is going to be doing good to place right in the middle of it. And again, these are good knives, good materials, and functional actions, but based off of a double clutch, based off of an unfinished edge, too much Loctite, an uncommon design with a different and multiple washers, and the fact that they're frame locks. I just don't do frame locks, so that's going to affect Kizer. Again, if you're into frame locks, you're into Kizer, you're into titanium frame locks, hey, look at Kizer. They're a quality brand. They're going to do you just fine. But from my experience, I'm gaining very little from Kizer on this. Another thing with respect to the Excalibur folder, I'm not a fan, one, of this very thin, very narrow scale. It's hard to hold on to, specifically with frame locks. I really just want to grab it with whatever real estate I can get and just open it, do it, go. If these were liner locks, I think this would absolutely be a fantastic knife. This would be a highly recommendable knife if it was a liner lock. The problem I'm having with titanium scales, and generally any metal scales, and I'll revisit this in the next series of videos after I'm done with the Chinese knives, when I go into other Chinese knives. I find metallic scales to be just too smooth, too hard to hold on to. Like, I can't find a good place where I feel like I have traction to flip this. You know what I'm saying? This one's a little better because it's textured, but this one, again, you know, with it being a frame lock. Kizer knives are fantastic, but there seems to be a regular 1 or 2 nagging problems with them, and for the price points that I'm paying relative to all these other knives, you know, the Bestecs and the Birds and the Civivis, I'd like to not see them have those problems. With respect to design, I am not a fan of metal scales or frame locks. Next video, I'm probably going to go ahead and start talking about the Bestecs. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or comments. Want to tell me how much I left these knives off camera while I was trying to talk about them? Let me know, because I don't watch these before I post them. Other than that, happy Mother's Day. You guys have a great night.